As human beings, we have the tendency to rate things. Everything needs to be placed into a certain genre, a certain group, or preferably a tier list. I don't know why, but it just soothes our autism, our habit of placing everything into a box. Everything is either underrated or overrated, the best thing ever or the worst thing we have ever laid our mud-colored eyes on. As a nerd with not a lot of hobbies, I tend to game a lot, and truth be told, most of these games I just play so that I can forget about them again in the weeks following its ending. But sometimes, very rarely, you bump into a game that just hits the spot. It makes your tummy tickle, and if you're really feeling it, maybe even makes other things tickle. As always, before making a video, I like to ask myself, who is this video even for, and would people be interested in it? This video doesn't have an answer to that. I just want to talk about how much I think Wasteland 3 fucking slaps. Now, CRPGs are a very niche genre of games. They are often slow-paced with clunky combat and leave very little room for mistakes. And these are just a few of the reasons as to why most people give up on them or never even try them in the first place. If you can push through these issues, or in the first place aren't even bothered by them, you will often be rewarded with very elaborate games, absolutely filled to the brim with side quests, deep lore, replayability and multiple endings. With that being said though, some CRPGs are a lot more accessible than others, as some are notorious for steep learning curves in which the game explains everything very poorly, or because of severe difficulty spikes, most people just find the first couple of hours to be more tedious than fun. With all of that out of the way, I, for some reason, figured it was a great idea to play the game on the highest difficulty, which turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes I've made this week. Thing is, higher difficulty doesn't mean more intelligent AI or challenging combat, it just means they took all of the original enemies, copy and pasted them through the map and gave them a million extra hit points. I did some of the DLC battles yesterday and one of them took me 45 minutes. Do you know how many productive things I could have done in those 45 minutes? I mean, not that I would have if I had them, but this is a matter of principle. What makes Wasteland 3 stand out to other CRPGs, at least in my opinion, is that it lets the player use their surroundings during, but even more importantly, before any fight occurs. I think that's also one of the many reasons Divinity Original Sin 2 was so incredibly popular, as you could use simple things as a bottle of water and turn it into a do not touch sign with just the press of a button. Wasteland 3 isn't so much about combining certain elements, but it does give you the option to approach every fight however you want. Normally, whenever games do this, it's only for like the first 3 fights, and after that the entire game is one linear fight after another. Wasteland 3 truly has different ways to approach every single fight. Wow. Sneak around to disable defenses, scout ahead so you can equip your party with proper items, find hidden areas, smooth talk or intimidate the shit out of people, it's all up to you. If all of that fails, you can always resort to more simple means like mind control, explosions, or just running people over with your car. People like to talk, so if you tend to rob and or kill a lot of people, word spreads around fast. Do enough favors for others and you'll be repaid with free items and healing. Sell their loved ones to a bunch of slavers and people tend to get a bit sad about that. And yeah, we've got role-playing here. Actual role-playing. Wait, what? You can be a complete fucking degenerate to everyone you meet. Worth mentioning is that it also helps that the story is pretty cool and you can get 6 different endings that are actually, well, different. And that's not even counting the premature endings you can get through in the game, which is a synonym for you dying and seeing the credits roll about 28 hours too early. Even if you didn't like the story, thankfully, the developers went for the one and only acceptable route for their side quests. Quality over quantity. Side quests can vary from kicking a bunch of teenagers out of a nightclub to helping a bunch of cannibals find some of their lost cattle. I don't care. Whether you make a first-person shooter, adventure RPG, or Tetris on steroids, if you add side content, at least make it worth the time. The days of fetch quests and collect 50 different dildos to receive a golden vibrating one need to be buried. Buried next to Evolved, The Calling 2, and that weird new roller skating game Ubisoft made. Did you guys see that? No? Well, good, because that's exactly my point. Roller skating? What is this, 1982? There wasn't even any marketing for it. No one knew it released. What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, shitty content. There isn't any. At least not in this game. While I was playing it, a thought suddenly occurred to me. This game does almost nothing to waste my time. Crafting is quick and easy, the same goes for trading, as I can just check my inventory while having a sell and buy menu open with the person I'm trading with. Disarming traps and opening locks takes 2 or 3 seconds or something. Attack animations are snappy and not elaborate whatsoever, resulting in faster combat. If you somehow start getting bored of your build, slap some explosive or corrosive rounds on your weapons, ask a four-legged friend for help, or just respec your entire party with the click of a button to see what other builds feel like. It allows you to be creative where it matters, but still feeds you cut and dry content whenever there's a need for it. It's a perfect balance to keep you hooked through the entire game. So, I already jizzed upon the combat, the story, the side stories, and the overall gameplay mechanics of the game in general. What's left? Oh yeah, the characters. They're fucking deranged, but in a good way. Throughout the years, I can't help but feel that in most RPGs I've kinda heard it all already. The edgy, misunderstood woman that was abused in the past, the misunderstood veteran who didn't get along with their superiors, the flashy, live fast but die young rogue who's always up to no good. I can't even begin to fathom how incredibly difficult it must be to write characters that players actually give a shit about, but that also makes it so much more rewarding to see that Wasteland 3 nailed it. There's almost zero party dialogue for the people you pick up along the way, which I normally hate, but you don't even notice that when you have misguided tyrants, robots, cannibals, and fat Americans impersonating the Scottish to interact with.
That's Scottish! What? I'm Scottish! See! Scottish plaid, Scottish logo, everything Scottish!
If that doesn't suit your fancy, maybe try the future to be tyrant. Man whose dick have been cut off, man whose arms have been cut off, this random woman who had nothing cut off, the rich, the poor, Ronald Reagan. I could name them all, but if none of these piqued your interest, you either don't care about anything or I really need to work on my sales pitch. If you deliberately avoided or ignored every request and demand a certain group of these people made of you, don't expect them to be helpful when you're going for the "we are reincarnating the Third Reich" ending. The game calls it the November Rains ending, but I prefer my version. So, what's left? Gameplay, mechanics, role-playing, characters. That about covers it, to be honest. Normally I make guides and reviews and shit, but this ain't really a proper review. Best CRPG I've ever played. 4 out of 10.